put the gun to my head, and I clicked it, and I had the safety on. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
You know, that's the worst, because when you're really committed and you forget one thing, it's like, you know, I can't even do this right.
I'm Matt Handy, and you're listening to My Last Relapse. All right, Omar. How's it going, man?
How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good.
Okay, well, tell me about you.
Man, I don't know how far we want to go back. You know what I'm saying?
So Dr. Shaw always says that nobody escapes their childhood unscathed, and so I find that that's a good spot to start.
Okay. Yeah, so, you know, I was born in Kansas, you know.
Not in Kansas no more.
Yeah, I'm not in Kansas no more. No, yes, sir. And my parents are both Mexican, right? And it's weird, you know. I always tell the story is like, you know, most Mexican families come from Mexico, you know, and raise their children over here. My parents came, and then they started working, and I guess the work was too much, so they sent me to live with my grandma in Mexico. Okay. So I actually was raised in Mexico. So
you reversed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up with my grandma first 4 or 5 years of my life. Okay. Grandma and grandpa in Mexico, and I grew up.
What part?
Nuevo Laredo, right there, right off the border, Laredo. So it was a 1-bedroom house, and there was about 9 of us there, as far as children were. A couple uncles and aunts that lived there. So it was just a really tight household. Bunch of, you know, I was the youngest, and I guess that's where bullying started for me, was at that stage of my life, like as a baby. And, you know, I also got a lot of love for it. And then, you know, my grandma loved me the most because I was the youngest, and everybody was always telling me, like, you know, grandma and grandpa, you're their favorite and this and that. And it just, it didn't take kindly to my other family members. But, you know, after I was 5 years old, they brought me to Kansas. And as a 5-year-old kid who just knows pure Spanish in 1995, to go into a school in Kansas where they didn't have ESL.
Wow.
They didn't have any Spanish-speaking teachers. I don't know how I managed to learn English, but I did.
Yeah.
You know? And it's crazy because I speak fluent Spanish and fluent English, and neither of them I have an accent. So when I speak Spanish to somebody who I just met, they're always like, "Where are you from?" You know, and I'm like, "Well, I'm from over here." And so it's very interesting to me how that kind of played out for me. You know, my parents were hard workers, you know, and they just they couldn't stay together a lot, you know. Okay. So there was a lot of moving around for me. I can't say I was very stable for a long periods of time in my childhood, up until like I was 15 years old. You know, just moving back and forth. You know, everybody has their friends that they grew up with, the people that they remember as a childhood. I have one cousin who he's not even my full cousin. He's a half cousin, and he's the only person that I know from my childhood, and that we stay connected. Everybody else is just everywhere else, and I have no real bond or connection to that. So I always grew up kind of alone. Mm-hmm. You know, I was always the new kid in school. Mm-hmm. You know, I was always the fat kid in school, right? So, you know, it was easy target. It was probably up until I was like 13 years old is when I found out that the bigger I was, you know, they were making fun of me for being a bigger kid, but then I realized I'm bigger than these guys.
Yeah.
You know, so once I found out that voice, you know, I was able to, you know, start fighting back, and then I learned that I didn't need to take it from anybody, mm-hmm. and that I could definitely be aggressive and fight my way out of any situation, which was not a good thing at that young age. You know, at that time, I was living with my mom, and my dad was not around. So my mom worked a lot of hours, and it was during the day, right? You know, so I was free to do whatever I wanted to do, right? Which meant I was out and looking for love, right? I never felt loved, even though I believe that my mom loved me and my dad loved me, and I never felt it, right? They loved me in a different way. They loved me enough to provide and to keep a roof over my head, but not presently to be there, right?
Yeah.
So, I started joining, gangs and stuff, right? And got into that lifestyle pretty quickly, and it was not good for me because I was not built for that, And I found out really quickly that I wasn't, but I pursued it, to try to be that person that I wasn't, right? I like to fight, so fighting wasn't an issue, but then we started, smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that. I always tell people that I lost my virginity at the age of 13, and it was to a 21-year-old woman, right? And you grow up thinking it just happened, but you get older and you realize that was not right.
That was fucked up.
Yeah, it was not right at all. And it just my life, my mind was messed up from then. I didn't know what love was. I knew what pleasure was, and then I found that in sex, right, and drugs, and these people that really didn't care about me. They just knew that I could get away with things that they couldn't. I was a fresh start for them, so I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing at an early age. About 15 years old, we moved to Laredo. That was not a good experience either. Living with my mom and uncles and all that, and then we finally moved out here to San Antonio, where things just got way out of control. I think I like to say that I really like school. School was a big part of my life, but the streets were it was more important to me. But no matter how much I was out, doing what I was doing in the streets, I was a straight A student at school.
Okay.
Right. I liked math, English. I was writing poetry at a young age, so that's something that really kept me going. I was in speech in debate teams and stuff like that. But I never had anybody coming to see these things, right? Mom was always working, and eventually, I was on my own, right? It got really confusing for me in that time period. I didn't, I was a weed head for a long time. You know what I'm saying? That's really what my drug of choice was for my from 13 to 21, right? Alcohol and beer was not my thing. I didn't like the way it felt like there was a lot of liquids in your stomach, and then I didn't like the hangover and all that stuff. So it was that and prescription pills.
Yeah.
So I ended up finding out that I really liked opiates. Pretty early on. I was about 17. From 17 to 20, I had a bad pill problem. It was like a blur to me. I ended up homeless pretty much at the age of 17. I graduated high school, even though I was homeless, and what's it called? That was a pretty cool thing to walk the stage and have family members there and stuff like that. But right after high school, I signed up for college, and they give you, your financial aid, and I got like this big check, and you're supposed to use it for books and for school supplies and stuff like that. I went and bought a bunch of weed and I bought a car and a bunch of weed, and I just decided, I'm gonna become, a drug dealer for to keep my habit up, right? And that was not the best idea, I ended up getting kicked out of college pretty quickly because I kept falling asleep in the back of the class because I was partying all day and night and not getting the rest that I needed. And yeah, that led up until I crashed a car when I was 20 years old on pills, right? That was the last time that I was like, you know what, this is probably not safe for me, because I hit a semi. I got into the middle lane. I hit those metal rails, and the whole car was destroyed. And I'm just like, oh man, this is not good. I got drugs in the car, so I drove off, and I have people honking at me, and I'm like, why are people honking at me? It's like 6 a.m. I was like, yeah, it probably looks terrible. I get to the first gas station I get to, and the car is just like munched up on one whole side. I'm dragging a piece of metal. I'm just like, yeah, this is not good. I could have died, and so it was a hard thing to do. But I guess I wasn't too crazy on the prescription pills that I didn't get like withdrawals or anything like that. Or I might have, I just don't remember, right?
Yeah.
I started doing music at the age of 18, right? I like doing rap music. And it was something about it. I found out that you could buy a microphone and an audio interface, and you can make a song in your closet if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I started experimenting with that about 18, 19. I had a friend who had a home studio, and I was terrible. I was completely horrible. I was not any good. But we made some music, and then I found a small record label that was looking for up and coming artists to help with, and I was always good at poetry, so I kind of like dove into that, and this record label helped me go do some shows out of state. When I was out of state doing these shows, I was introduced to K2, right, and that's where my life changed completely, right?
For sure.
And this was the first time that I had done something other than, pills and weed, right? Those were a normal thing. I never got into the heavy like narcos. I would just like alcohol, pop a pill, smoke some weed, and here's a night, right? But this thing grabbed me. This one that we're selling it in the convenience stores back in like 2011 and 12. And nobody knew what it was, right? I came back and I started looking for it. That's when, you start, like now thinking back, I'm like, now I realize that that's where the problem started. It's like, I found this thing out there and
Were you in California?
No, I was up in Oklahoma.
Oh.
Yeah, it was weird. It was the weirdest place. It was Oklahoma and Kansas, and they sold it in little containers.
Yeah.
And I came down here and, they said, go to one of those
Head shops
and ask if they have anything like it. And they're like, they were like really weird about it at first. I was like, man, you don't have anything that's like synthetic marijuana is what they were calling it back then. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they would pull out this bag. And
do you know how they make that shit?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah, it's terrible.
Dude,
it's so much
fucking bad.
I mean, it's no different than how they make like heroin and meth and stuff like that, but it's just like some it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad, and I worked at a hotel at this point in my life, and the owner would always randomly drug test people. So I was like, man, I'm gonna get fired because I'm always smoking weed. And I was like, oh, they say that this stuff doesn't come out on your drug test. Cool. So I just switched from that to that. This is stronger anyways, and then I was just making these excuses, and I wasn't realizing that I was getting hooked onto the stuff. Right around that time, I met my now ex-wife, and like I said, I've always been bad with love, and we. She got pregnant, I think, in the first like 3 months that we got together, right? And she didn't. It's weird. I always tell her, like, you you got with the drug addict, well, your choices were pretty bad back then, you know what I'm saying? And she was like, yeah, we have a pretty cool relationship today. We've been through a lot though, but I guess I'll get to that. So, we move into a house, and all I'm doing is working, coming home, and falling asleep, because that's what this stuff does to you. You go, you do a little bit of it, and you're asleep, right? It's so similar to heroin that it's crazy, right? But you don't think about it being that bad, And right around that time frame, I have my first child, and the bills are coming, and things are piling up, and I'm the only one working, and we have a newborn baby, and I'm getting paid, and I'm asking my wife, can you give me a little bit for a bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and then it becomes, I need another one, it's like, but you said it was just gonna be one bag a week, and then it became like 2 bags, and now I'm giving her less than what I actually made, and I'm getting 3 bags a week, and then my friend dies, right? He had his name was Ray, and he had a heart transplant when he was 10 years old, and he was a full blown addict, right? He ended up dying at the age of like 20, 21, 23 or something like that. And he was my number one supporter. And, I was visiting him in the hospitals, and while he was getting, really bad for the longest time. And one night I get a call that, hey, Ray passed away. He died in his sleep peacefully. And, I took it really hard. And I went, and I bought like 10 bags of K2, and I just spent a whole week in the garage, and just asleep. And when I was out, I came back out, and now I hadn't gone to work for a week. Now the light bills due, and I'm telling my wife, I was like, hey, I need more money for another bag, and she's like, no, you're not gonna get this money back. And I was like, I worked for it. I'm gonna if I want a bag, I'm gonna get a bag. And she grabbed all the money that I had given her, and she threw it on the bed, and she's like, fine, spend all of the money on that stuff, but I'm leaving. And I'm taking the kids, and because when I met her, she had 2 children already. So she's like, I'm gonna take the kids and I'm gonna leave. And I was like, I sat there, and I had the money in my hand, and I was like, I was contemplating. I was like, well, the family or this, right? And then I was like, man, I saw her packing her stuff, and when she walked out, I told her, I was like, no, I'm gonna stop this stuff, but it's really hard to. I'm gonna need your help. And I told my boss that I needed some time off, and I ended up spending 2 weeks in bed just sweating this stuff out. It was the worst, just throwing up, not eating. If anything that I ate would come right back up. It was just a horrible, horrible experience. And I was like, this is about, like, when they say you feel like you're gonna die, but you're not gonna die. It's just that's just how it feels. And I was dreaming about it, dreaming about going to buy it, and dreaming about using it. Then waking up, and I was sober, and I was upset, and it was just like the craziest. And I was like, this is crazy. This is madness. I don't ever want to do this again, right? And this was early 2012, or late 2012. And after I broke from that, I was like, I'm never touching this stuff again, right? And I went back to smoking weed because it was healthier and it was okay, But I was like, I'm never touching that stuff again. And then I go to a concert probably about a year later. And I remember it was a Kevin Gates concert, and this was before he was popular or anything like that. And my friend asked me, he's like, "You ever done cocaine?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I've ever tried it. It's never been my thing, like it's an upper or whatever." And that was the first time I tried cocaine right at this concert, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
You're like, well, that is my thing.
That is crazy because now I do think I like cocaine, right? You know what I'm saying? And it was not the best idea, right?
Have you ever seen Walk Hard?
No, I don't.
Walk Hard. It's there's this funny scene where they're like on tour with like Elvis and like a bunch of Johnny Cash and like a bunch of other people, and it's just really funny. You got to watch. I'll send you the clip.
Okay,
it's really funny.
Yeah. So I was like, man, this is different because the first time you do it, you're like, wow, like I could think about a thousand things to do right now, and I can get them done. And I go home and I clean everything, and I was like, my wife's like, what's going on with you? And I was like, nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of had that cocaine addiction for like a good 6 months, and she didn't know anything about it. You know what I'm saying? I ended up, finding somebody who sold it, getting it on my own. It was just a crazy transition, and and it was just like the suspicion was there. It's like, okay, you're not sleeping in the room as much, you're not smoking as much weed. What's going on here? And I'm like, nothing, nothing, and I ended up, I worked at this hotel, and working at a hotel as a front desk manager, being in the mind that I was in at that time frame, you're just trying to find people who are new clientele or somebody that needs something that you could provide. Because I'm a people pleaser, right? If you need something, I'm gonna try to get it for you, no matter what it is, at that point in time. And this guy, I got really close to. I was like, hey man, you think I could borrow some money? I need to borrow some money till payday. He's like, what do you need it for? And I was like, I'm trying to get some stuff, you know what I'm saying? He's like, what are you trying to get? And I was like, well, I don't want to tell you. He's like, well, what if I want what you want? And I was like, well, I'm trying to get some cocaine. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't mess with that. He's like, I do meth. Right? And I was like, well, I don't know anything about that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, this is so fun.
You know what I'm saying? And
oh, dude, I got to send this to you. Okay, keep going.
So he was like, can you get some? And I was like, man, I don't know anything about it. I don't know about any prices and this and that or whatever. So I reach out to my people, and apparently I can get meth. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't try it. I didn't try it for a while, but I was this guy's connection every time he came to San Antonio. He would come, and I didn't sell meth to anybody but him. I didn't know anybody else who did meth. I was blank to that world, right? And
probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think about it. I'm like, that was the worst. So like, that was the worst thing I could have done. That moment in time, right, was that I could have been like, nah, I'm good. I'll figure this out. But I was like, no, let me find this drug that I know nothing about. And then I ended up hanging out with this dude. And I didn't know how you used meth. And I see him smoking it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you smoked that stuff. He's like, you want to try it? And man, that's when I'm a good decision maker at this time in my life.
Oh yeah.
And I like to try things. That's the same thing that happened with K2, right? Somebody was like, "Oh, you want to try this?" I was like, "What is that?" It was like it's not weed; it's synthetic weed. And I tried it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is like the best thing in the world." And so I remember the first time I did meth as well, and he was like, are you sure you've never done this before? And I was like, no. And then I just kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And I talked for like hours. And after I realized that it was morning time, and I hadn't come home that night. Getting back to the story, right? I did methamphetamines in 2000, and this was about 2015. I had already had another child, and this changed everything.
Oh yeah,
it's changed everything. Like it was, hiding a cocaine addiction was one thing. You know what I'm saying? And because you could fall asleep on cocaine. And eventually it goes away. Or the feeling it just doesn't get you to where this stuff does. And then I start being really anxious and angry and paranoid, and this time the wife leaves me for real, right? She packs up the kids and
That's the one that'll do it for sure.
for sure. And she leaves me for real, and she leaves.
She almost left you over K2.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, and she left me for sure this time, but this time she didn't know about this, right? I had this like really well for I think a good like year, and I end up moving out of there, out of that house, and hotel hopping with this truck driver that he's like, don't ever do this by yourself. He's like, once you start buying it, once you get your own your piece, everything is gonna be just different. He's like just stick with me, keep smoking your weed, and we'll partner up. And I didn't know about codependency at this point, but you know what I'm saying? I realized I'm very codependent, and I was like, sure. And the wife is like, what's going on with you?
Yeah,
like,
what are you doing? What are you doing in Alabama?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm still maintaining my job. You know what I'm saying? I got a job, and I'm out on the streets. I still have a car, but all those things are still like slowly, progressively leaving me.
Yeah.
And then this guy, he ends up getting into it with me, and I threaten him, he threatens me.
The truck driver?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he leaves, and I never hear from him, ever again. You know what I'm saying? Well, he'll come back into the story later, but he leaves, and I'm just stuck with like, well, man, like, I still want to do this stuff, even though I'm by myself.
Uh-huh.
And then I find myself in this world that I didn't know existed.
Oh,
it's a dark.
It's called the underworld.
Yeah, very bad, bro. It's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't been through it. How dark it is. I've experienced a lot of things that I wish I'd never seen or heard about, or just. I used to see people die a lot. I used to see people overdose on different things a lot. Just things that I was not ready for. And from 2015 to about 2016, 17, I was just hotels, meth and everything that it brings with it, right?
Chaos.
Chaos, right? Yeah.
Chaos.
And
I think that meth is the only drug that will steal your soul.
Yes. Yeah, and I believe, I'm very spiritual, right? So I believe there's like demonic, things behind it, right? And
yeah, well, I mean, anyway, yeah, they do, like, they bless that shit on the way across the border. And
you just read my mind, yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's, the people that make it, they bless it with evil.
With Santa Muerte, yeah.
Yeah, and they send it off, and they say, if anything else, take care of this, and everybody else doesn't matter. That's why people die, carrying that stuff. It's very, very scary. So throughout this whole time, I'm back and forth with the wife. I'm leaving her. She's leaving me. She gets her own place, and I'm just still bouncing around. And I didn't think that I was bad at all. Right, you know what I'm saying? I'm asking everybody for money. I've burnt all my bridges. I can't stay at my mom and dad's house anymore. I can't go to visit people who would normally have me over, and I was just not welcome anywhere. The only person that would ever give in was my wife, right? And she ended up getting the Section 8 apartment in one of the most terrible neighborhoods in San Antonio on the west side, and she's like, all right, she had found out about the meth, she knew I was using all these things.
She's Mexican?
She's from San Antonio. She's Mexican, but she's not, right? You know what I'm saying? She don't know Spanish. She's English. Yeah. So, but what's it called? She was she had her past before I met her and stuff. So she, we found out later on that we're really codependent, right? It was like, she would get with somebody and it wouldn't work out, and I would get with somebody and it wouldn't work out, and then we're back together. And so I moved back in for a little period of time, and she knows I'm doing this, and it's also like, I'm making a living out of it, right? I'm not working like, but really I'm just supporting my own habit. Like if I have any extra money, it's like maybe like $10, or something like that. But there's this like this thing that, whatever I'm believing in my mind is real.
You're like the biggest drug dealer.
Yeah, I am. You know what I'm saying? Like this is everybody's out to get me. I'm carrying, a gun, and I'm just like, all these things, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You like get an 8-ball at a time.
Yeah. Sometimes, it's crazy. Yeah. So what's it called? So 2017, right? Early 2017, we got a knock at the door, and I'm in and out of the house, right? So I'm not technically living there, but every time I come over, I'm very destructive. I get high, and I'll break a door or a window or some crazy. I never hurt anybody in the family, but like you realize later that the trauma of screaming and yelling and breaking stuff is very, very harmful. It's trauma. You know what I'm saying? And we get a knock on the door. It's a CPS, right? And they drug test me, and I come out dirty. And they're like, yeah, we need to come up with a plan. And they were there like until like 3 a.m. And I was like, you guys just need to leave us alone. You need to leave the house, close the door. And we went upstairs, right? About 30 minutes later, there's a police officer coming in through the window, right? And they're taking my children at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that was the most horrible experience I think I've ever had was watching my children get taken by the police at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? What I tell a lot of people that I work with today is that if I look back, that's when I can tell you that I know that I'm a real deal drug addict with a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Is that they took my children. And, as sad and as scary as it was, I went back upstairs and I got high, right? They took my children because I was getting high, and I went back upstairs and got high. And then I showed up to the CPS office high, expecting them to give my kids back, demanding that they give me my kids back, all this nonsense. So we end up on this family drug court thing, and it was very tough for us because it was like they wanted you to drug test every 3 days. They wanted you to go to these meetings. They wanted you to do an IOP, and I didn't know anything about any of these things back then. So I was just like, this is just you guys like it's not that serious. Like I don't even live there. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, they don't trust my wife. They believe that she's gonna let me back in. All these things. They convinced her to kick me out. So I end up leaving, and I end up with my living with my parents. Oh no, my parents had my kids, and I go back and get the job back at the hotel because I had lost it, and it had been a couple of years, and I'm working there for 1 weekend because he only lets me work. He's like, I'm gonna let you work, just Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm working there 1 weekend, and I find this wallet outside, and it has like $3,000 in it. And I was like, hey man, I quit. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, this is great. So I show back up at the apartment, and she's there, and she's like, all right, come in. And I was like, did I have all this money? And she's like, where'd you get this money? Who'd you steal it from? Or what'd you do? And I was like, no, I found it, I swear. And she lets me stay for about a week, and then it becomes a problem with they ask us to go meet once a week, and I don't show up on time. And when they call me, there's like lapses in there. And it's because I had relapsed on K2.
Oh.
Because, I can't do meth because it's going to come out on the drug screen.
Yeah.
So maybe I can do a little bit of K2, and it's everywhere in the West Side, right? That's like the main drug. And I'm like, I show up like hours later, like late to the thing, and I'm like, they're like, where you been? The meeting's over, this and that. And the guy comes in and he's like, "Have you been using drugs?" And I was like, "No." And I can already imagine the face that I had, like just like gone,
Twisted.
Yeah, it's like, "Nah, man, I'm good." And he's like, "You need to be honest with me. Like, I can tell something's not right." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been getting high." And he's like, "Well, you need to stay away from your wife, right?" And so I leave, and I have all this money in my pocket. We get home, we have this big argument, and I leave. And I had given her the money, and she threw it, and she gave it to me. And she's like, "I don't need this. Like, you're just gonna get me in trouble. I want my kids back. You don't care about the kids." And I'm like, "I do. It's just I can't help it." And she's not understanding, and I'm not understanding why I can't help it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to really like put together why I can't help it. You know what I'm saying? I find out about all these things in the future, and it's yeah. So I'm out, and this is when I was really homeless, right? I was out with $3,000, and I went and bought about $2,000 worth of a K2, like a big old case.
What?
Yeah, it was like a lot. And then when you're in the West Side and you're Mexican in San Antonio, you get good, the good prices. So I had a lot, right? So my idea was I was going to sell some of it, and I was going to do some of it, and I end up doing all of it, and it went really fast. And then like I'm waking up and I'm realizing that I've been sleeping outside for who knows how long, and I'm out of all my drugs, and
That plan did not work.
yeah, I'm just like, what's going on, and then and it's when's the last time I've eaten? I smell horrible, and now I'm in a clique of people who are just out panhandling, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, like what just happened, I'm trying to muster up $5 so I can go and get a blunt, so I can go and just feel good for 10 minutes and then have to come back, and and I'm losing a lot of weight, and I'm like me, my body size. I'm meant to be a big guy, right? Because when I'm skinnier, I have a big old head, so I just look lopsided. You know what I'm saying? So, I just look terrible, and I end up hanging out with these homeless guys. Well, I'm homeless, right? So just these guys, right? They're just like me.
Yeah.
And we're just walking around, and in the hot summer, my feet are hurting, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm stealing hot dogs from the Valeros to get by, and sodas, walking in there and just filling up my sodas. We're doing random crazy beer runs, and I'm not getting into any trouble, but I'm just like losing track of time. And the thing that spiraled me out of it was crazy was that I ended up in a park that was right across the street from the apartment where my wife lived. And we're sitting at this park, and we're putting together a bunch of these little roaches to try to get at least a good little decent high for three of us. And this guy's like, "Oh man, God is good." And I was like, what? And he's like, "That lady over there dropped some pizza, and she had like these little Caesars boxes, and the pizza had slid out and it fell on the ground, and she just threw the box and she left the pizza there." So I was like, "Man, I'm not eating that." And then he went and he got it, and he brought the box back, and he's like, "Man, I don't know about you, I'm eating this thing." And I looked at it and I was like, "Man, like I'm hungry." And I know what it tastes like to eat pizza with like dirt in it, bro. And other stuff. You know what I mean? We used to go to the Church's Chicken and wait for them to throw the last bag out, and we'd have to beat the roaches to the bag, and stuff like that. And it just got really bad, bro, And so that moment, I'm eating this pizza, and I'm like, this is what have I come to, right? And I end up going to the apartment and knocking on the door, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'll be back," right? And I don't know how long I've been with these guys, so I go and knock on the apartment door, and my wife comes to the door and she looks at me and she's like, and I was like, hey, how you doing? She's like, hey, how you doing? She's like, you've been gone for like 6 months. And you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, how you doing? She's like, and I was like, man, I just need a shower and a good place to sleep tonight. And she's like, where you been? And I was like,
The park.
I was like, I messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I messed up, and it was the hardest thing, like for me, like to say, I have a problem, right? And I didn't even tell her that, right? I said, I messed up, and I was like, wow, 6 months. I was like, that's how long it's been. I didn't have any clothes. I had lost all my stuff, and she let me stay the night. She let me eat. She let me take a shower, and I stayed the night. And the next morning, she's waking me up, and she's like, you have to go, And I was like, yeah, I get it. And she's like, yeah, because I have to go. Like, you have to go, like, in the next, like, 10 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, where are you going? And she's like, I'm on the way to court. Today's the day that you lose the rights to your kids. And I was like, oh, man. Can I come with you? And she's like, for real? Like, you really want to come to this court date? She's like, everybody hates you there, like, but come on, get on the bus. Yeah, you're right. Do your hair. You know what I'm saying? Don't show up just like that. And I show up to this court date, and everybody's mad that I'm there. Like, what are you doing here? This and that. And everybody's just treating me like, like I deserve to be treated because I just bounced on this whole program, and I bounced on everybody, and I disappeared. I didn't make one phone call. I didn't reach out to nobody. Nobody knew where I was. And, I'm sure they saw me out there, but nobody, stopped or anything like that. Maybe they did. I don't know. And that's the first time, the judge, he comes up. He's like, today's the day we're signing away the rights to your kids. Do you have anything to say for yourself? And I don't know what came over me. It just, God put it in my heart, and I openly just said, I have a problem, sir, with drugs, and I need help. And I just started crying right there. And it wasn't like this show that I was putting on. I was just being genuinely like,
oh yeah, you were going through
like,
it.
like, yeah, like, bro, like I'm about to lose my kids. I'm about to just, I don't know what's next after this. If I lose my kids, then what's the point?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I never stopped loving my kids. I left the house that I was at. I was in a house, and I left the house because this lady that I was getting high with, she was like, every time you pass out, you start crying and you start talking about your kids, and why don't you just go home? And I was like, I'm not taking this, and I left. You know what I'm saying? And so they put me in my first rehab, and it's the only rehab I've ever been to. It's state-funded rehab in San Antonio, and I was there, and I was there for they had a work program. So like after 45 days, you get to leave and go find jobs and come back, and you're there for another 45 days. So I stayed there for a total of 90 days, and I was just there just to get people off my back. I was not, I got sober. I really did. I've never done K2 since 2017, right? But what's it called? I learned a little bit about the program and what was going on, AA and NA and all these other things, and I learned about myself and what these chemicals do to me, and stuff like that. But no real like recovery, you know what I'm saying? So I get out, I get into a sober living home, and it's like it was a terribly run sober living home, to say the least, right? My roommate was getting high, the leader was getting high, and everybody, and only like 2 people were working, and one of them was me. You know what I'm saying? So I left. You know what I'm saying? I was there for like about a month, and not even that, probably like 3 weeks, and I left, and I ended up back, by this time the CPS case is closed, the kids were back home, and I come back home with promises of I'm going to do better and this and that, and I get a job right down the street, and I think that lasts for about a month, and I'm walking home and what's a cup? Bless you.
Thank you.
I'm walking home and I guess I'm lying. That was not the last time I did K2. I'm walking home and I find some on the floor, right?
Of course.
Right? Why would it be that?
Never found it before.
Yeah, I've never, you know what I'm saying? I've looked for it, while I was, I've never found it. And of course I find one, right? And I'm just, I don't go home. And, it just, it got to a point where she was done, right?
Yeah.
She's like, that's it. Like, I can't have you keep on doing this over and over. Like, I don't want to lose the kids again, right? And I was like, all right. So I went back to using meth, and I went back to using K2. So now I'm doing K2 and meth, and then eventually meth takes over, and it doesn't want to share with anybody.
Yeah.
So, I'm out for about another year. And it's a crazy run, I'm dealing with people who are really dealing a lot of stuff that I never knew that I would see in person, and I'm fearing for my life. I got shot in the shoulder, I got stabbed in the side, I started wearing a bulletproof vest, and I got shot in the back. It was just a bunch of crazy, like I was really in that lifestyle, and I think it was October. It was Halloween, 2018. Caught my first felonies, right? And it was all at once. It was great. It was a DWI, possession, stolen vehicle, unlawful carry of a weapon, possession of another weapon, all these things. It was like evading because I tried to jump out of the car. And it was the craziest thing. And I ended up in jail. And up until this point, I had been in jail for like a night for like shoplifting, you know what I'm saying? Food and stuff. And this time, I go up to the judge, and the judge is seeing everybody's handcuffed together, right? And they're going, you this charge, this is how much your bond is, $500, $2,000. They get to me, and the bond is like $400,000, and the guy was like going like on this list, and I was like, oh man, my life is over. You know what I'm saying? I'm done. That's it. So, I start calling my mom, and my mom's like, you put yourself in this position, and I'm just there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, I went from being really sad overnight to this is my life, right? Nobody's going to get me out of this. So I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to be as aggressive as possible, because ain't nobody, the little kid in me came out, right? I saw somebody get beat up the first day I was there, and I was like, that's not going to be me, right? So, I was starting fights. I was making sure people knew that they're not going to mess with me. You're not going to take anything that's mine. And, until I finally got a court date, which was like 6 months down the line. And, my first offer was 25 years, right? Or I could take it to trial, and it could be 2 to 99, right? And at first I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take it to trial. And then my court appointed lawyer, right, was like, yeah. He was like, look, you can take it to trial. He's like, I could tell you that you're gonna do good, and all this stuff that, any other lawyer is going to tell you, it wasn't in your hands. It was in the compartment that they unlocked illegally and all this. The thing is, he's like, it's there, and there's witness statements, and there's people. So somebody had
watched the whole thing go down, or told on you.
Somebody told on me. Yeah. And that's what he was getting at. He's like, there's statements, there's text messages, there's pictures. He's like, he started describing a picture, and when he described it, I was like, there's no way he could.
Yeah, you were like, wait, I know that picture.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, and he did it like in the most like chalant way, and he was just like, you ever sit on a bar stool with a bunch of money in your hand and a gun on your lap, and I was like, okay,
You're like, oh, wait, yeah.
that's a crazy accurate description, bro. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, if you go to trial, you might win. There's a 20% chance that you might win this case. He's like, but there's an 80% chance that you're gonna go do 2 to 99, and it's anywhere between 2 to 99.
God, that's such a crazy spread.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, wow, 2 years, anywhere between 99. That's a lot, And the way I've seen people get done in the state of Texas.
Oh yeah.
I got people.
Dude, they're bending people over here.
Yes, it's been like that for years. It's gotten a little better, but it's still just. The system will get you if you don't drop that ego, right? You know what I'm saying? He's like, I was like, what do I got to do? He's like, plead guilty to the drugs, and we'll work it out, right? I ended up going. I was in there for about a year, and I ended up getting released. I ended up getting released a little over a year, and. No, it wasn't even that long. So I ended up getting released after I found that out. That I signed off on a plea agreement, and they gave me 10 years probation.
Oh God damn! You're still on probation?
I'm still on probation.
Oh my God!
Right?
Did you have to get permission to come down here?
No. So
you just can't leave Texas.
So I'll get to that, right?
All
So
right.
yeah, so I do have permission to be here. What's it called? The first offer was 15 years probation, right? And we'll let you out tomorrow on ankle monitor if you sign off 15 years probation. And I was like, no. I came back and I was like, no. Tell him to come on, man. Who does 15 years? Nobody does 15 years probation. I was like, 10. I'll sign 10.
That's like life parole.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll sign 10. I was like, I can do 10 years on probation. I just. Just in my head, I'm like, I just smoke K2 this whole time. I don't know. I was just like, whatever. And he was like,
which they test for now.
Yeah. So I sign off on 10 years probation, right? And I'm not out long. I'm on ankle monitor. The only place I can go to is my mom's house. And it's almost like they do it to set you up for failure, right? I feel, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I can't, I'm on house arrest, right? And I'm in a place where if I have to go to work, I have to ask for permission to go to work. If I want to go to the gas station, I'm not going to go to the gas station. The only place I can go is doctor's appointments, work, or job interviews, and AA meetings. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And that's very limited. So I'm having to ask people to take me, can you buy me some cigarettes? Can you bring me a soda? Stuff like that. And it's very annoying. And, needless to say, being on ankle monitor, and then your parents, not understanding your situation, right? It got really hard to be there. I get this job at this place where they cut jalapenos up and they hollow them out at night. And I meet this guy and he's like, "Hey man, I noticed you're kind of sluggish tonight." He's like, "I got something that'll help you boost that, right?" And he pulls out a little bit of meth. And I was like, "Oh man, I'm on probation, and well, today's Friday."
Oh, you start doing addict math.
I report on Thursday. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, "Yeah, I can do a little bit tonight, and then maybe tomorrow, and then on Monday stop, and then by Thursday I'll be able to pee clean." You know what I'm saying? I was able to do that for about a month or two, and then while in between that, I'm starting to do things I'm not supposed to at this place where I'm living, and I'm getting high quantities of methamphetamines while I'm on probation, while you know what I'm saying, and I'm just like, this is not good. So I cut my ankle monitor off.
Yes.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
it was the greatest thing ever, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like
The most genius idea ever.
yeah, I'm gonna go with the guy who's my plug. I'm gonna run away with him. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna live happily ever after, and it's gonna be great. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it was you forget, you know, the time in jail
Very quickly.
you forget the homelessness, you forget everything. I'm really good at forgetting. I have a short-term memory or long-term memory problem, you know, but when it comes to drugs, I forget really fast. The pain and suffering, the children crying, the disappointment, you know, all that, I forget about it. And what's it called? You know, I'm out doing these crazy things that I'm not supposed to be doing, and what's it called? You know, everything is like, you know, nobody wants me around. The only person that's seeking me out is my mom. Everybody else is kind of like they've already wrote me off. You know, my probation officer is looking for me, and so is the people that I cut the ankle monitor from. And it's I'm out doing these things that I'm not supposed to be doing. You know, when you're in the rooms, they say, you know, every time I do something I'm not supposed to, I end up in places where I'm not supposed to be, doing things I'm not supposed to be doing with people I'm not supposed to be with. And I don't know how far we can go in your conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you can talk about whatever you want.
You know, I told myself I was going to talk about things that I've probably not talked about with anybody except my sponsor with, right?
Yeah.
And it's only because I've seen your platform and I see what you talking about. But you know, I end up with this end up at this dude's house, and you know, I'm there to serve him and this and that, and you know, he knows I'm on the run. And what's it called? We're sitting there, and he's like, "You can crash here tonight." You know, my homeboy's coming over, and what's it called? They get there, you know, and somewhere down the line, bro, they grab me, right, and they put what I smelled was heroin, was just black tar heroin, and they put it to my mouth, right, into my face, and I black out. And I think this is one of the things that messed me up the most, bro, was that I, as a grown man, I got taken advantage of by two grown men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that I tell people a lot. You know what I'm saying? It was no reason for me to be out there. You know what I'm saying? And God had given me an opportunity, and I went out there, and you know, I found out. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it was hard. You know what I'm saying? That they ended up, they didn't even rob me. They left me with all my dope and stuff, and they dropped me off somewhere. And I woke up a few days later, and I had like an injection in my arm where they probably shot me up. I don't know how long this was. I just know what happened. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it messed me up bad, bro.
Yeah,
you know
for sure.
Saying?
That'll fuck you. That'll fuck someone up.
It really did, bro. And you know, it's probably gonna make sense to a lot of people who watch this that know me now. You know, it's not one thing that I talk about. You know, I tried suicide a couple times. When I lost my kids, right? You know, I was at the apartment, and I tied this thin extension cord, and I was like, is this high enough? Because I was on the steps and I fell, and I was like, oh no, I wasn't ready, you know, and like it like caught me, and it broke. Yeah. And I had this black ring around my neck for like months and months, and but nothing made me want to die more than this, mm-hmm. right? And I tried, right? You know, I put the gun to my head, you know, and I clicked it, and I had the safety on, You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
You know, that's the worst because when you're really committed and you forget one thing, it's like, you know, I can't even do this right. So I had all this dope, and I was like, I'm just gonna eat all this dope. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I've OD'd a couple times along the way, but I don't know if I OD'd. I just know I woke up with a lot of throw up on me, and a lot less dope. Now I have no dope. Now I have a little bit of cash. Now I'm gonna stay at this hotel. I'm on the run. I ended up back on the streets. Now I'm sober, walking around, trying to make money for dope and figure things out. You know, I'm just lost out there, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, man, I really wanted to die, and now it's just it's time has passed where I'm like, okay, I have kids. You know what I'm saying? Things are, I can get past this if I find the right person, and you know, I start praying, and you know, my faith in God. I was raised Catholic, but you know, Christianity was something that my wife was trying to push on me for a long time, and I never really wanted to feed into it, and you know, I started praying to God, right? You know what I'm saying, and you know, for me, that was just like that was a time where I was like, you know, if you pay attention to the way God works, I mean, if I paid attention for the way God works for me, right, is every time I pray, things change in ways where I think it sucks, and you know, it's like people leave me and people start answering phone calls and all these things, and that's just God working in my life, right, to doing the things that I can't do for myself, right, and you know, I call the wife and I ask her, and I'm like, hey, I want to see the kids. You think I can see the kids? And she's like, well, let me come by and see you. They're in school right now. And then, you know, she comes and she tells me that, you know, she's living at this place called Haven for Hope in San Antonio. So she's in the homeless shelter. She's lost everything. You know, and what's it called? She can't help me, right? You know what I'm saying? There's no home to go to.
Yeah.
You know? She sees me and she looks at me and she's like, man, you've been going through it, right? You know, and you know, she's always shown me like she was the first person to show me like real love, unconditional, that, you know, that didn't judge, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, she was mad, you know what I'm saying, all the time, but it was not judgmental, right? And she's like, let's go to the store and let's get you some clothes. Let's rent a hotel, get you showered up. And she bought me these shoes, went to I'll never forget, it was Ross. Went to Ross and they had these champion shoes and it said, it takes a little more to make a champion on the, like, written out on there. And I've been one thing that I skipped on my childhood is I was a graffiti artist for a while, and so I've always been into art and graffiti and stuff like that. And what's it called? You know, when I saw those shoes, I was like, man. She's like, those are meant for you, right? You know, and they were my size. I'm a size 13. It's really hard to find shoes that are my size, and I've never seen shoes like those ever again. They pop up every so often. On my feed, and it happened to be October of 2019, and the reason I remember those days, right, was because she's like, well, yeah, if you have any dope on you, you need to get rid of it. And I was like, all right. And she's like, if you want to see the kids, you gotta go to church with us on Sunday. And I said, okay. So we spent the weekend together. You know, it was great. The kids, you know, miss seeing dad. You know, they don't understand why I'm always gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't get it, but they know. You know, the older ones know. And you know, I ended up going to church with her. And as we leave church, we get pulled over, right, by an undercover police officer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh no, but I'm in the passenger seat. And I was like, and her license is suspended and the stickers are out. And I'm like, I ain't got nothing to worry about. You know, I'm just chilling in the passenger seat. They come to the passenger seat, the passenger door, and they start asking me questions. And then I finally, like, you know, give them my ID, and they're like, yep, that's him. This is what we've been looking for. you know, and I'm going back to jail. Right, October 6th, 2019. It's the last time I ever used methamphetamines. It's the last time I ever used any other hard mind altering substance. Right. Um, I find out later that she turned me in. She turned me in because they let her go. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even run her license and everything. I'm over here like, what? And I would ask her, like, did you turn me in? And she's like, no, it's just, they would call and ask about you, but I never did that. And I'm like, all right. And so I'm in jail, and which I think I'm going to prison, right? Because I come on or off. I've been gone for who knows how long, and I'm. When God does things for you that you don't understand, I was a high risk inmate when I was in there the first time. They put me in there with people who had murderers and people who had, done horrendous crimes. And I was just like, this guy that came in there for drugs. And I ended up in the trustee pod, right? And I was like, this is not right, but I'm not going to say nothing, right? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, okay. And they gave me a job, and my job was to clean the CO's hallways.
Yeah.
Right? And give them water and coffee and ice and stuff like that. And the officer that was in charge of me having that job, he's like, you're not supposed to be in this pod, are you? And I was like, no. He's like, but you're okay with me, so I'm not gonna turn you in, But if somebody else finds out, they're gonna move you around. And I was like, all right. So if you know anything about, maybe Bexar County jails, how it works. If you're a trustee, the only thing that you can bring back from when people come, I have to clean up their mess because they leave it there. They're like, they throw all their stuff. They're like, I'm out of here, bro. I'm going home, And out of all their things that I can grab is one thing, and it's the Bible, right? It's the Holy Bible, and in jail, it's really hard for you to come up with a Bible, especially in Bexar County at that time, right? So I start bringing these Bibles back to the pod, right? And I end up stacking up about 10 Bibles, right?
Yeah.
And then and I don't know anything about the Bible. I don't read it. I don't open it. They bring me they have these things. The chaplain comes, and I don't go. I'm just focused on working and bringing these Bibles back. In my mind, I was like, I'm gonna sell them. Right? I'm gonna get some soups for him or something like that. Nobody wants to buy a Bible. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, I'm like, I got to get rid of these things because now I got 15 of them. I got some that are in Spanish, some that are in English, some that are NIV, some are this. I don't know any other difference. So I start giving them away, and then I start coming home with more and more, and this guy wakes me up at night, and he's like, you're the Bible guy, right? And I'm like, what? What did you say? Just call me. And he's like, the Bible guy. You got the Bibles, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you want a Bible, man? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I gave him a Bible. He's like, hey, man, tomorrow we're having a prayer call. I'd like you to join us. And I was like, I'm all right. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. And I just started thinking about it, right? It just started the gear started turning, and we started doing prayer call, and then I took it serious because it wasn't about what was in the book. It was about the experiences that they had with the people were having with God and their experiences, and it awed me, like this is what they believe, and it just I just started feeling the warmth of it, and I end up being the guy that's leading the prayer calls leaves, and this guy comes up to me. He speaks Spanish, and he's like, "Hey man, can you help gather people for the prayer call?" And I'm very aggressive and very loud at this point, So I'm like, prayer call, come to prayer call. If you don't come to prayer call, I'm gonna come, come get you to prayer call. And now we're singing and I'm learning songs, and I'm praying at night. We got a circle going around. The guys come, and I embrace this thing that I don't know anything about this, And this guy, I was like, I don't know. He's like, do you know anything about, what God did for you and this and that? And he starts reading John 3:16, and he just starts, enlightening me about this Bible. And, I was still not fully in, but I was, I started praying, right? And I never prayed before in a way of like, hey, look, I'll change. And if you give me another opportunity, I know I'm probably going to go to prison. I haven't seen anybody. Nobody's come to talk to me. It's been about 45 days, and I guess it is what it is. I want to learn more about this, but I also want to be close to my family. And the very next day, in San Antonio, in Bexar County, they call RCO1, and that's when you get to go home. And they're like, Chavarria, RCO1, the very next day. And I was like, what? He's like, you're going home. Pack your stuff. And I just start packing my stuff, and I'm like, I'm really going like going home today. Like this is because in my mind, I just cut my ankle monitor off. I was on the run, all this and that, and they're gonna send me to do some time.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me home with a court date. Apparently, there was this thing called COVID coming out,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? And people, they had to clear out some space, and it was a really heartwarming experience for me, because this is something that I had literally prayed about. And now I understand that prayer doesn't work like that, but to me, that's what it meant, right? It meant that God heard me.
Well, why? Maybe it did.
Maybe it did, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's what it felt like to me at the time, is that God listened to what I was talking about, and because I genuinely meant it, right? Because I was tired, right? And I knew that I was gonna die, and I had experienced things that I never want to experience ever again, and I was really just surrendering. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Surrendering to God at that moment in time. And I was like, if there's any way you can do this, make it happen. And I will follow you. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that's how it worked in the Bible. He's like, everybody followed Jesus everywhere. And he's like, follow me if, want a better life or whatever. And, I get out, and I get out with no ankle monitor, right? They just report to your probation officer. So I report to my probation officer, and I go see her, and she's like, Mr. Chavarria, what happened? You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
Same probation officer?
Yeah, same probation officer. And she's like,
How long was it?
It was 6 months. It was a 6-month period. And in 6 or 7, I think it was 7 months. It was 6 and some change. And she was like, I was like, I don't know. I just, I told her I started doing drugs again, and I messed up. You know what I'm saying? She's like, so what are we going to do now? And I was like, can you put me into to an outpatient program where I can go see, about this and that. And, I get out of jail. Before that, I get out of jail, and you get out of jail and you're like, yes, I'm getting out of jail. And then you get out of jail and you realize I don't have anywhere to go. You know what I'm saying? I don't got no money. The wife is at Haven for Hope. I can't go there because we're not legally married. You know what I'm saying? So I end up sleeping in the van a couple nights because she still has the van, and I sleep a couple nights out there, and it is not. That is not it. Sleeping in the van outside of a homeless shelter in the middle of the night is crazy. You know what I'm saying? There's people doing karate and biting each other, and police are just nonstop. You can't sleep outside of a homeless shelter at night. It's just not possible.
There's a circus out there.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. So I'm just like, what am I gonna do? So I start thinking back, and there's this place in San Antonio called Club 12. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And they have meetings there. And the wife is giving me the car. It's crazy, right? Because she's giving me her debit card, the food stamp card, and the keys to the van. And she's like, go do something, find a job. Here's the card for gas. Don't use it. I have this much money. Here's the pin. Here's a pin to the, and I'm like, why, like, I wouldn't trust me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just the craziest thing, right? And so I end up at this place. I end up looking for my brother. My brother, he's a police officer. I inspired him to be a police officer, and I asked him, if I could go and live with them, and he said that he didn't want to see me at that point in time, and I said, okay, I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? And I go to Club 12, and I walk in because I know that they have coffee there, and I'm like, is it free coffee, or do I have to pay for it? And I go in there, and I was like, hey, is the coffee free? And they're like, no, it's like $1.80 or something like that. And I was like, so I'm walking out. This old timer, he's looking at me. He's like, you want coffee, man? I was like, yeah, man, but I'm good. It's all right. I'll figure it out. And he's like, no, come sit down. And he buys me a coffee and just has a genuine conversation with me. And he's like, you should stay for the next meeting. And I was like, okay. And I didn't. I left, right? I finished the coffee and I went back outside to the van. And there was a friend of mine who had been reaching out to me that we went to treatment together. And he'd been reaching out to me time after time, like, hey, you should come to sober living, right? It's done wonders for me. He's like, it might change your life. It might not. You know what I'm saying? You never know. And I was like, nah, man, I did the sober living thing before. And it was just like, it was terrible. And I was like, but can I come take a shower? He's like, yeah. He got me, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He got me to come over, and I walk in the door, and they're like, you hungry? They give me a plate of food. They give me, you need a towel. Here's a towel. There's some shampoo in there. There's this different kind, this different kind. If you need hair gel, there's some hair gel right here. I got you some blankets and some pillows. And I was like, no, I'm just taking a shower. Nah, bro, you can just crash the night, bro. You got 3 nights you can crash here. You know what I'm saying? It was an Oxford house. And,
I was going to say.
Yeah, it was an Oxford house. And so they had these rules, right? You can come and couch for 3 nights. And, I sat there with this guy. His name is John. And he's still a really good friend of mine to this day. And what's it called? He sat with me all night. And because I was there, and I'm like, this is weird. This is a weird environment because everybody's happy. Everybody's like nice and clean. Because this is not the experience I had the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
The first time was like just like I was in a trap house. You know what I'm saying? And this time it's like the house is nice. There's like it's like wood floor, and it's a really nice house. And just the environment. You know what I'm saying? There's a trophy on the above the fireplace that says, #1 house of the year, And I was like, okay, I'm in the best Oxford house there is at this point in time, right? And then my friend, he has his right next to it was another trophy. It was my friend. It was a man of the year. So he had been doing all these things.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, all right, well, I guess I'm in a good place, right? And he's like, yeah, man, I'd ask you to stay, but nobody ever leaves here. Everybody's been here for more than a year. And I'm like, well, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, why'd you bring me out? He's like, I can get you in a house down the street and this and that. And I was like, nah, man. I mean, if I was going to stay anywhere, I'll stay here, but I'll crash another night. And that night, one of the guys there, he's like, hey, man, my mom's sick and I have to go back and live with her. Right. So that same night that he told me that there was nobody ever leaves, somebody left. And he's like, hey, man, this guy's leaving. If you really want to stay, we can, do the interview process and all this stuff. And I ended up staying there. And I learned a lot of things about sober living. I learned a lot. I learned that it can work for you and then it can work against you. Yes, very well. I got kicked out of that one for losing my meeting sheet 3 times, right? You know what I'm saying? But I ended up getting a job in the first 2 weeks. And then I ended up getting saved the following week. And then I had court. So I had gotten court, and they were trying to send me to SADF or to
Safe P.
Yeah, or Safe P, or to do drug court, which are all intense programs. And I was like, everybody that was there was like, man, we'll write letters for you. You know, this is, man, these programs suck. If you go to any of these programs,
You're fucked.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be at least 9 months, you know, and it's basically like you're back in jail or in prison, right? So, again, I find myself, you know, this is when I finally started going to church, and I get saved, right? I give my life to Christ, and I tell the pastor I want to get baptized. You know what I'm saying? But I need to get baptized before the 6th, because on the 6th I have court again, and they might send me away for a long time. And I want to get baptized at this church, because these people, literally, when I walked in, when that day that I walked in, the day that I got arrested, I walked in and everybody was like, and I realized, I was told later on, right, that they had been praying for me to come off the streets for like 6 months, and they were just at a certain time every week. At this time of the day, they were praying specifically for me all together at once. And then they all saw me walk into this church wanting a different life, and then I get arrested, you know what I'm saying? So to them, it's like God is working, you know, and I was like, you know, now to me, it's like God was working, you know what I'm saying, in his own way. And I end up, what's it called? You know, end up at another Oxford house, and I'm there, and then I ended up. I had the first 2 weeks I was in the first house. I got a job at a meat market. It was the only place that would hire me. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a bunch of fresh felonies. Nobody wants to hire, you know, a fresh felon, and not even, you know, McDonald's, Little Caesars. Nobody wanted nobody wanted me. And this guy was like, "Why won't anybody hire you?" I was like, "Because I got felonies." He's like, "You got, you know." You got your social and your ID? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'll give you a job. And he's like, you ever cut me before? I was like, no. He's like, you're going to learn. And I was like, cool. He's like, I'm not going to start you off at $20 an hour like everybody else. I'm going to start you off at $9. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, now, you didn't need to tell me that. Because now in my head, I'm like, I'm making $9 an hour. And the guy next to me, who doesn't know any English, you know what I'm saying, is making $20, you know, and I'm like, what's going on here? You know, and, you know, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, right? COVID hits, and I find an excuse to make it back home, right? You know, because they had written this crazy thing, like the judge. When I went back to see the judge, the guy who was in charge of the SATF program was on vacation, and they weren't taking any applications for drug court at that time. And she's like, I told her, I was like, well, I got a job. I'm living a sober living. I've gone to 2 meetings a day, every day since I've gone out of jail. I'm like, and she's like, okay. All right. And I was like, I got saved. I got baptized. I'm part of a church, you know, all these things. And she was like, okay, I'm just going to reinstate you. And you're to stay in these in this program until you complete it. I was like, cool, yeah, I agree to it. You don't complete Oxford, you know what I'm saying? There's no completion, right? So in like I couldn't leave an Oxford house until I don't know what that meant, right?
Yeah.
So once COVID hit, I told her, you know, the wife had gotten an apartment, you know, everything had, you know, she was doing good, and I was cured, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had you know, and she was like, all right, you know, go ahead and you know, I'll give you 2 more months there, and then you can go, right? So COVID hits, and this is where I started to fall in love with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And that's my program, right? That's the one that saved my life. I know everybody has their own program, but I'm a meth and K2 addict that got sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I understand it. It makes sense to me, and the community is great, right? There's definitely a lot of things that I'm not 100% on, right? You know what I'm saying? But that first run, I half-assed the steps, right? I had a sponsor who was my friend, and we ran through it, you know what I'm saying? And I checked off these boxes, and I was like, cool. He's like, sponsor people. I'm sponsoring guys, and nobody's staying sober because we're not doing the program right. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know how to do it right. But what I do get out of it, right, is during COVID, they shut down Club 12, right? And there's this lack of meetings, right? And when you put the same drive in for recovery that you do into doing the drugs, right, it becomes crazy because now I have a vehicle and I'm out with these guys from this Oxford house, and we're looking for these hidden meetings because we're having these because now you can, if they catch you outside and there's a certain amount of people, they'll shut it down.
Yeah.
So we're having them behind alleys. We're having these meetings, you know, in these buildings, these apartment buildings.
Going to bandos and having meetings.
Crazy, you know, crazy stuff, yo. And it was cool, man. You know, it was like this is what we're fighting for. Like we're fighting to keep this community alive, and not to keep the meeting alive. It's to keep everybody alive.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and I believe that, right, at that point in time. And there was this one day that I showed up because I wanted to find a men's meeting, and it was on the meeting app, and it was at 7:00 on Mondays at Club 12, and I was like, I wonder if they have that meeting outside because they were having other meetings outside. And I show up with a buddy of mine, and there's two old guys outside sitting down in the two chairs, and I'm like, hey, is there a meeting here? And you're looking at it, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, all right. So I get off, and you know, this old timer named Fred, or he was like, oh yeah, but you know, you can't dress like that if you're gonna be here. And I was like, what? And he was like, nah, I'm just playing. And I was like, all right, you got jokes. And we sat there, we had a conversation, and he sounded like he'd been through some things that I've been through, and he was from the same side of town that I struggled on, you know what I'm saying? And we hit it off, and I started inviting people every Monday to this meeting. And then Fred got sick, and nobody was there to chair the meeting, right? So, you know, I started chairing the meeting, right? Then I started bringing this ice chest because it was hot with water and Gatorade, and you know, I started posting it on Facebook. People were against that. They're like, you can't be posting it on Facebook. And I'm like, bro, it's COVID, bro. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to save people's life, and you're worried about, you know, tradition. I get it. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of things that people were against that I was doing, but I was like, I don't care. You know, I ended up making a 4-man meeting into a ongoing 20-person meeting, and it's all men, right? And they're showing up, and I got my truck. You see my truck back there, and now I have chairs, and now we have this meeting outside, and it's so fulfilling just to see people come and just be a part of, you know what I mean? And I look back at it, I was like, man, I was just there as a spiritual support because I really didn't know those steps. Like I knew them, but I was just going through like the daily reflections reading and what it meant to me, and then what it means to you, you know what I'm saying? And here we go, or pick a topic, or what are you struggling with, or check in, you know what I'm saying? Get to know each other, exchange numbers. And that meeting went on until they opened. I think Club 12 was closed for about a year. And then it stayed outside for about another 5 months, and then it got cold, and they brought it back inside. And, you know, that meeting is still alive today, you know what I'm saying? And I don't say that I kept it alive. I don't say that I had any part of it. It was all God, but I was there when it was about to die, right? You know, that old timer Fred, he died last year with 39 years sober, right? You know, and that was an inspiration to me. So, you know, fast forward, you know, I'm working at Goodwill now. I've been working there for a while, working my way up, and I stopped going to these meetings. I started going from like going to 5 meetings a week to, you know, 3 meetings a week to 2 meetings a week to 1 meeting a week, to sponsoring guys to not sponsoring guys. And, you know, the wife is going through nursing school, you know, and all these things. So I'm taking care of all the kids. I'm paying the bills. I told her, don't work, you know, it's going to be all right. I'm managing to pay the bills with $12 an hour working overtime, you know what I'm saying? And I get bored, right? I get stressed out, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I say that October 6, 2019, is the last time I used methamphetamine as a K2. That's that. But I ended up relapsing on weed and alcohol, right? I started off with alcohol, right? I don't like drinking. So I was like, it cannot become a problem. You know what I'm saying? I was like, it'll relax me. It'll take the edge off. You know what I'm saying? All these things. And, I quickly realized that I don't like to drink. And it's not getting me to where I want to get, right? So I go to this head shop and they have this thing called Delta 8. So I start smoking this Delta 8. And I realized later on, somebody tells me, they're like, you just might as well get the real stuff because it's got THC in it. And I was like, no way, because I'm on probation and I have to report. Because now I'm on 3 months, every 3 months, right? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, all right, I'll just smoke for 2 months, and then I won't smoke the last month, and I'll be able to pass a drug test, right? There's these, but I forgot about everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I forgot about the last incident that happened. I forgot about everything that, the terrible that happened to me. I forgot about everything.
Oh, yeah.
Really instantly. You know what I'm saying? Like, throughout the, it's like, this is a good idea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Genius idea. Yeah.
Genius idea. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like, now I'm moving up to edibles, and now I'm waking up under the table in the kitchen, or waking up in the shower just because I ate, because so who knows who's making this, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It could be 10 milligrams or it could be 100. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel it, and sometimes you don't even know who you are. That was my last relapse, right? It went on for about 4 months, and around this 4-month period, we get married for the first time, and we've never been married before, and we get married, I drink, and boom, full blown relapse, right? And it didn't take long before CPS was back.
Oh, no.
You know what I'm saying? It didn't take long, because nosy neighbors were in an apartment complex and stuff like that, right now I'm going through another case, so I won't talk too much about all of that, but CPS came into my life, right? And I had to leave, right? And
Is this how you ended up in Dallas?
This is how I ended up in Dallas, right? There's a lot of in between. But what's crazy, right, is the way that it played out, right? So I get a phone call from a good buddy of mine called Scott, right? And Scott, I've been following him for years because of his recovery. And I realized that I haven't talked to anybody in a while. And he calls me, and I just took an edible. And I just lit a blunt, and he calls me and he's like, "Hey man, where you been?" And I was like, "Oh man, I just been busy with work and the kids." He's like, "We ain't seen you in the meetings in a while, bro. It's been a few months. We're just checking in. You know what I'm saying?" And I was like, to be honest, man, I relapsed. I was like, I relapsed, and I'm smoking weed and drinking here and there. And he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't know why, really. I really don't." You know what I'm saying? Because at that point, I had gotten bored, miserable, and I was like, "Is this what sobriety is going to be? Is just me being miserable this whole time, sober?" And I was like, "Well, I'll just take the edge off." And then I'm getting high, and I'm like, "This not taking. This is. I still feel miserable.
Yeah.
There's something." There's something there that I'm not taking care of.
Right.
It's kind of what we talked about earlier, right? I wasn't addressing any of that. And he's like, "Why don't you come back to the meetings?" And I was like, "Honestly, bro, because I'm embarrassed." I was like, I had 3.5 years of sobriety, and I just, flushed him down the toilet, right? And I just decided to get high and just give up on the program. And he was like, I'll tell you what, he's like, "How about you go to this Drug Addicts Anonymous meeting that we have going on Tuesdays, 7400 block Blanco over here, and it's at 7:00." And I'm like, I'll see you, bro. And he's like, "No, I'm gonna see you there. If not, I know where you live, and I'm gonna come find you, and we're gonna go to the next meeting, right?" And he's like, "Bro, like, quit being an idiot.
Do you know Bubba?
I know Bubba. I don't know him personally, but I know people that work close to him, like John Russell. John Russell's the John that I was talking about earlier.
Wait,
Yeah.
White John?
Yeah, White John.
Hold
yeah.
on, this John?
Above John. He's
Oh, okay. Yeah, dude. Yeah, okay.
yeah. So yeah. So the pastor's calling me. He knows where I'm at. All right. He's going to see the podcast. What's it called? So where was I? Oh, so he tells me, he's like, you come into this meeting, right? And I was like, yeah. So he's checking up on me every day. And he's like, just flush everything that you have. And I was like, no, it was expensive.
Wait, huh? Yeah.
It was expensive. I'm going to spend the weekend, enjoying the rest of my high. And then I'll end up going to this meeting, right? So, we were getting kicked out of that apartment that we were in because there's too many people in the apartment. And so I go to this meeting and I get my desire chip. And, the meeting's about relapse and all this stuff. And, Scott, he's there, and, this other guy, his name's Roy, and you might know Roy as well. And what's it called? He comes around. He's like, "Hey man, you've been around before, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, kind of. He's like, "What happened? You relapsed?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, let's." He's like, weren't you like sober for like 3.5 years or 3 years or something like that? And I was like, "Yeah," but I threw that all away, right? And like out of the crowd, this guy comes in. And he's like, "You didn't lose nothing." Like, you know what I'm saying? He said other words. I'm trying to work on my language. I don't know if you can tell.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
And he was like, he's like, "You didn't lose none of that." He's like, "Whoever told you that, they don't know what they're talking about." He's like, "You can't throw away experience that you gained." He's like, "You might have made a mistake and went back out, but you still learned something along the way." He's like, my buddy Scott told me, he's like, the same thing. He said, he's right. He's like, "You didn't lose anything." He's like, "If anything, you have something I don't have. You know what it's like to be sober for a long period of time and relapse." He's like, "I don't know that." He's like, so it was just like all these things, and I was like, and this dude, he was like, "What you need to do, you need to get your head out of your ass, and you need to start working this program and getting the steps." And he's just yelling at me, right? And I'm like, "What is this guy's problem?" And I was like, "You want to be my sponsor?" You know what I'm saying? And he's like, "Yes." He's like, "But I don't got time to waste." You know what I'm saying? So he's like, "If you're gonna do this, we're gonna do this for real." And the following week, CPS is at my door, and I get kicked out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm Tuesday to Friday, 4 days sober. And, I'm like, I just got paid. We got approved for this other apartment. And I'm like, well, I can just go back to what I was doing and just run for the hills, or I could try to face this problem head on, right? And, I called my buddy John, and he ends up. I was like, "Hey man, any houses that'll take me in?" And he's like, "Yeah. How about you come to this house, and I'll be there." So I show up, and he's the house manager of this house called Unity in San Antonio, and this was a popular house. It was owned by one person, Justin Rudder, who was a big mentor of mine, and they have these Halloween parties every year. They're like these epic Halloween parties that everybody shows up. The whole block is covered in cars, and everybody shows up, and they have Halloween costumes, and they go all out, and we do contests, and it's all sober. They have ice chests full of like Red Bulls and sodas and waters, and it's just a bunch of addicts having fun. And the police show up, and they're like, "What's going on here? You guys having a party?" "Yeah." And they come in, come in. There's pizza. Y'all want to have fun with us? We're just sober. Nobody's here using drugs or anything like that. The music's low. We're being respectful. I think the people that you're looking for are down the street. You know what I'm saying? And there was another party going on, and so it's this house, and I'm like, I know this house, right? And so the moment that I walked into the house, I felt spiritual presence, right? And I took the 12 steps real serious this time around. I thank my sponsor, for that, because he pushed me through that. He gave me these deadlines, and when I would call him, he would tell me, he's like, "I thought you said you surrendered to God and that you had faith." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Then why are we talking?" And he would hang up the phone, and I'm like, eh. And then I would call him back, and then he's like, "Did you pray about it?" "No." Hang up the phone again, and I'm like, this dude, right? You know what I'm saying? And then I would sit there and think about it, and I'm like, "Well, I haven't prayed about it. It's not that serious." And I would calm down. I'd call him, and I'm like, "Yeah, I prayed." And he's like, what did you come up with? It's not that big of a deal. Then why are you calling me for, bro? Hang up again. You know what I'm saying? And that relationship went like that for the first 4 steps, right? After the 5th step, it became like, okay, we got somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he's pushing you through these steps, right? And when I did the 5th step, that story I told you about, earlier, he was the first person I ever told that story to. And he kept telling me, he's like, "Man, you're giving me some bullshit right now." He's like, "This right here is surface level bullshit. You're not dealing with what you really need to deal with. I can tell that you're holding back." And he's like, "You know what? Matter of fact," closes book, gets up. He's like, "Thank you for your time, bro. You're gonna have to go and find somebody else that's gonna waste their time with you, and this is never gonna help you if you don't take it seriously." He's like, so he sticks his hands out. He's like, and I'm just looking at him like, "You really just gonna bounce on me right now?" Like,
yo, I just told you that.
yeah,
Yo,
no, I didn't tell him that yet.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't tell him that yet, right? And all I was telling him was about these abandonment issues and being alone all these years and all these things. He's like, yeah. There's something deeper that's messed you up. That's why you're still miserable, And then so I start going through some other stuff, and then I get to that, and he's like. So, he sits down, he had sat down, and we start going through, and he's like, "There you go, bro." And then, he taught me about, everything that we do, everything that we're upset about, and all the people that we're upset at, we had a part to play in all these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you made a choice, right? You made a choice to be here. You made a choice to relapse. You made a choice to cut your ankle monitor off. You made a choice a long time ago to start using drugs and alcohol. Don't blame, your situation. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame anything. It's like it's the choices that we make that make us that bad problem. He's like, you're in your own way. And he's like, he had told me to open up my big book when I first met him. He's like, "Open up your big book. See the first page?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's everything that you know about Alcoholics Anonymous and being sober." It's blank. Yeah. He's like, "Nothing, right?" And then he tells me the first promise. It's this is a story of how 1,000 men and women recovered from alcoholism. It says recovered,
seemingly hopeless and helpless. Yeah.
Yeah. It says, but he circle the word recovered. He's like, because we're working on getting recovered. He doesn't mean we're cured. It doesn't mean that we're done, forever. It's just that we're recovered. And recovered means we have to continuously keep working on ourselves. And then when we got through the 5th step, he's like, he got up and he's like, like it was nothing. Because I was afraid. I was afraid to be judged. I was afraid to be shamed. You know what I'm saying? Because of that experience, I was able to share that with you here today. You know what I'm saying? Because of that experience, I'm here today. You know what I'm saying? People say that the 5th step is hard. The hardest is the hardest part is 8 and 9 when you have to go back and tell people
everybody
the problems. I know I messed you up, and I know I screwed you over, and I did this and this to you. How did it make you feel? Dang, you know what I'm saying? And then what can I do to make it right? And you really have to follow through with that. And that was hard, you know what I'm saying? And then, but the most spiritual experience that I've ever had was walking another person through the steps.
Yeah,
right. Sure. It grew my relationship with Christ for me even greater. Right. So I'm there for a year at this sober living house. I'm sponsoring like 10 guys. I'm like, going around. I'm like trying to be Mr. AA. I know this. I know that. going to as many meetings as I can, working on the CPS case, trying to figure things out. Me and my wife, we kind of, our relationship kind of skewed off because, we ended up losing the kids because I couldn't stay away, right? The problem was me, right? So, they ended up taking the kids eventually because they found out I was staying there, and I wasn't supposed to. I was getting nights out at the sober living home, so I was taking them over there, and I was supposed to do that, and one thing led to another. So our relationship really got rocky, right? So my buddy Scott comes up to me and he's like, there's this faith-based program that's looking for house managers, right? And I had been offered house manager positions from other houses and stuff, and I was like, I don't know, man. I'm dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, and he's like, yeah, but I get you've got other offers, and these other houses are different. He's like, but this faith-based program is different. And he's like, and you're gonna have so much support. He's like, I'm gonna be there with you along the way, this and that, and and he's like, and free rent.
And Scott was at Oxford House, right?
Huh?
Scott was the guy that was at Oxford House?
No, Scott was he was just the guy that I was following.
Oh, the DA.
Yeah. So he's like I'm managing one house. He's like, they're gonna you can manage the other house, and I was like, all right, free rent sounds good. You know what I'm saying? So I went, and 3 weeks later he bounces. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, what happened to the support? And I end up really taking this house manager position really serious. Sober living did something to me where it became a safe space, and knowing that it's not that serious when people are leaving dishes out and stuff like that, but when they are, it's meaning that they're being careless, and when they care less about little things, there's bigger things at play that they don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
So it taught me a lot. It's a lot. It's a crazy experience if you really take it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up, when I got there, I ended up just being me, right? They were leaning more towards the Christian side, and I was like, I get it, but it's still a 12-step program, so everybody needs to be on the 12 steps. And I just took initiative as far as like wanting to make sure that the program is being run. If we're a 12-step program that's faith-based, that the faith-based part is not primary, then we got to focus on these 12 steps and make sure that people are working these steps. It doesn't matter what steps they are, as long as it's the 12 steps that you're working with a sponsor and the sponsor is actually working through a program, right? I'm a big 12-stepper up to this day. I still have sponsees. I still have a sponsor. I moved to Dallas. I got a new sponsor. I go to meetings, you know what I'm saying? I go and speak. I'm very, very 12-step, I do things a little bit differently. I sponsor people who are on mat, right? That was one of the things that one of my sponsors had a problem with was me sponsoring people with that were on mat. He's like, dude, they're just trying to stay high. I was like, I think that's very. I was like, I think the conversation that we had was like, I didn't know you were a doctor. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, I'm not. And I was like, then why do you think that, you know more than this doctor that prescribed this person this medication that's, that has a plan to get off, right? Because at this point I had seen the house that I went to, Unity, that was a mat-friendly house. And they would have a plan of action, right? You're on Suboxone, we're gonna slowly taper you off, however that looks, but you have to have a plan. And I saw several people successfully taper off of Suboxone. So when my buddy Scott found out that I was doing that, he was like, bro, I'm proud of you. At first it was like, I thought I was in trouble at first because he called me. He's like, hey, bro, I heard you're sponsoring people on Suboxone and MAT programs and stuff. And I was like, yeah. And this is somebody I look up to, right? So, he's like, bro, I'm proud of you, bro. He's like, bro, it's a whole different, most people won't do that. He's like, why are you doing that? I was like, I just feel like that there's different things for different people. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that every program is for everyone. You know what I'm saying? The program that I work definitely is not for everyone. I don't know what it's like to be on Suboxone, but I've seen successful people who were just strung out and bad and come from being really skinny and unhealthy and ready to die to living fulfillful lives, thriving, healthy, going back to a family, you know what I'm saying? Like who am I? I'm not God. You know what I'm saying? I told my sponsor this was a sponsor that my sponsor left me with, because after I did my 8th step, my 8 or 9 step, my sponsor's like, oh, hey, I'm leaving to Missouri, and I'm never coming back. And I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? So this was my new sponsor at the time, and he was like, nah, I just think people are gonna, he's like, do what you want to do, man. You know what I'm saying? Sponsor these guys, and it doesn't always work out, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But neither does sponsoring people who aren't on Matt.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes some regular people just, I think the harder people to work with are people who are like the stoners.
Yeah, dude.
It is the hardest people to work with is stoners, because it's really hard to track it, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're spending some money, on like some mouth swabs that go into the lab and you can test levels and stuff like that, which is going to cost you some money.
Yeah.
Then it's really hard to keep track of this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And some people hold it on them for 30 days. Some people hold it on them 4 to 5 days.
Dude,
60 days, you know?
Yep. Yeah, no, dude, the weed situation is really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it's what I struggle with a lot and what I do today, right? So, what's it called?
How do you feel about Cali sober?
That's what I thought I was. You can be if it works for you, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to judge you, but I wouldn't recommend it, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just like everything else. Okay, if you can bring it to me in a way that it's like regulated, and that you have a plan, like to me, the plan of MAT-friendly programs is for you to eventually taper off.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you're California sober, then you're just a pothead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I love weed. You know what I'm saying? It's one of my, it was what I grew up with. I grew it. I did it. I sold it. I loved it. It was not the weed. It was not the drug that made me lose my family. It did kind of help lose my family, but it wasn't what ended up ruining my life completely. It was other drugs and other choices. But that's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? You can come to a meeting and be, you know what I'm saying? And it helps people. Yeah. You know what I mean? I totally understand it. People have anxiety. People have
glaucoma
and all these, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, it's 2026 also, right? So there's a lot of medications that take care of all that, and they're not narcotic either.
Yeah.
Right. And they're proven to work. You know what I'm saying? So it's, it's not for me.
Yeah.
But I'll say that, you know what I'm saying? I can't do it because I end up doing edibles, and then I end up losing my kids, and I end up doing, all this crazy stuff, and I tried it, For me, it wasn't for me. Some people, I see it successfully going to work and doing what they do, but for me, I can't do what I do today and be California sober.
Yeah, me neither.
You know what I mean? It would just be counterproductive. You know what I'm saying? It's like I see these people in the industry that I'm in now, right? Because I'm in the BD world, right? The business. I didn't know that it existed, and you're a rep for a treatment center, and then you're on Instagram with the White Claw in your hand, or a wine glass in your hand, but you're out trying to get people to come to your treatment center. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be me, putting that out there, And if it is, then you might want to consider another career, you know what I'm saying?
Or just sales in a different industry.
Yeah, you know what I mean? This is, for me, it's life or death.
Yeah.
Right? Straight up. You know what I'm saying? It's not about the things that I can get. I used to want to get sober because it's like, okay, my life is going to get better. It's like, no, now I found out that the goal is for me to get better, right? Today, I get to, be a part of something greater than myself, right? I like starting AA meetings and at sober living homes and handing them off to somebody and being like, this is not for me. We're not starting this. I'm starting it with you. And then after I leave this place, it's going to last, hopefully a long lasting effect. Right. After working with this as a house manager, for so long, they kept putting it in my ear, like, yeah, we're trying to expand out to Dallas, and if you know anybody, I'm like, nah, I don't know anybody, you know what I'm saying? And then I found out that they were really like asking me if I wanted to come out there, and I've never been anything in my life, right? I've been a great addict, you know what I'm saying? I failed in a lot of areas, and all of a sudden I'm doing something that I'm really good at. Right, I'm going to these houses and I'm kicking everybody out because they're using, and I'm replacing them with people who are doing the program, and I'm having great deep conversations with people, and some of them, it's not about if they stay sober. It's about, I have people that call me today that are not sober, that call me just to say, hey man, I remember when that time that I was really hurting and you sat with me up until 2 a.m. He's like, man, no one's ever done that for me. And people still call me, and those are the most meaningful things for me today. I'm spiritually fulfilled. And my walk with my spirituality has grown way, way bigger than I ever imagined. I'm a leader in my church, which, the program that I work for is owned by a church, right? I never saw myself being recognized as somebody important. The other day, somebody gave their life over to Jesus, right? And they called me up to be part of the prayer circle. He was gonna to help him receive the Holy Spirit, right? And that's things that I couldn't do when I was out there. You know what I'm saying? My business card says director of sober living, right? You know what I'm saying? I've never been the director of anything. You know what I'm saying? I've directed my life into the ground. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is it's been a great experience. You know what I'm saying? The nonprofit that I work for, man, it's been a blessing for me. The pastors, they have a unique look at the whole thing, right? The whole they're both. I think I told you before. They're both psychiatrists, doctors, and pastors, right? Yeah. And the pastor right?
Yeah, I was looking for something.
I'm all squirrel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, you want to look for it?
No. Go ahead.
I'll help you look for it. The pastors are pastors, psychiatrists, and doctors. Right?
Yeah.
So they've also helped me push through limitations that I didn't know that I was, because I was sitting there as a house manager in these committee meetings, and I'm sitting there with directors, LCDCs, psychiatrists, the CEOs, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking around, and I at the end of the meeting, I told the pastor, and I was like, I don't think I belong here. And he was like, why? And I was just like, because I'm me. You know what I'm saying? I'm here in some Jordans and a long shirt. Everybody in here is wearing suit and tie, and they're tucked in their shirts, and they all have degrees, and I don't have anything to offer. And he's like, you have lived experience. He's like, you have this cap of limitation on you. He's like, you need to break through that. And once I really sat down with God and really learned what that meant, I was able to be the person that I am today. You know what I'm saying? The other day, at the beginning of the beginning of last month, I moved into my own house.
What?
Right? You know what I'm saying? I've been in sober living since I got kicked out of my house in 2023. Right? You know what I'm saying? And after 3 years of being in sober living, and coming out here, being the director, am I allowed to say the name right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So being the director of Mastermind Recovery, it has been able to, it's changed me into being able to start houses from scratch, right? With the support team. I thought they brought me out here to Dallas, right? And I was like, okay, they got a plan. They got this idea of what they want me to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna show up, and then they're gonna give me this paperwork, and they're like, this is what you're gonna do. So I get there, and I sit down, and he's like, so what's the plan? I was like, what do you mean? I thought you guys had a plan. They're like, yeah, you're the plan. And I was like, oh man. So I've been able to construct, based off what they have going on in San Antonio, this program, and I successfully was able to open 2 houses in less than 7 months, and keep them consistently filled, right? Wow. We bring this aspect of love, right? I've been told that we're the only program that will take you in with $0 if you show promise, right? If I do a phone interview with you and you're checking off all the boxes, you have your ID, you're ready to go, you know what I'm saying? We'll get you in, you know what I'm saying? You have 2 weeks to find a job, and then we'll work on a payment plan. Most people won't sit there and look at you if you don't have the first week and
a couple thousand bucks.
Yeah. I was saying, like, the first week and deposit and something like that. It's like, bro, he just got out of rehab. How do you expect anybody coming out of rehab that's been in rehab for the past 90 days unless they come from money? You know what I'm saying? And I'm attacking a different geographic, right? My jam is homelessness, like homeless outreach, right? Because I was there. Right, you know what I'm saying? I was there, so I go out there and I shake these people's hand, right? You know what I'm saying? It's probably not the safest, thing to do,
cleanest.
Right? It's not the cleanest thing to do, but I will shake their hand. I'll give them a hug. I'll pray with you. I'll sit there and have a conversation with you. I'm not eating what you're making. Definitely not eating what you're making. And I'll tell them, and they'll laugh. You know what I'm saying? But it's about having this making people feel like people. Right.
Do you know Pete?
I know a couple.
Punk rock Pete.
Maybe.
It's like biker Pete. Maybe.
No, I don't know. If I was, yeah. If it hasn't clicked now, yeah. But I've been in Dallas for a year, right? And the community's so welcoming, right? I have not had any trouble getting the name out there. I think I successfully made Mastermind Recovery Dallas a name that people think of when they have people that nobody else will take. My house managers don't like it, but I take the hard cases, right? Which means if you don't have health insurance and you can't get into it, and every program is filled right now, and you don't want to go to the homeless shelter, be on the streets, but we can get you insured and get you in, and if you come in with a clean drug test, without any treatment center, I'll take you in. You know what I'm saying? But the minute that you relapse, you're out of there, right? So, man, I've seen so many successful transitions, bro. You know what I'm saying? I've seen a lot of great stuff. Dallas is it's huge. It's huge compared to San Antonio. The people that I work with, you know what I'm saying? They tell me all the time that they never seen it before, the love aspect of it. And I come from since we're faith-based, right? I come from a Christ aspect of it, right? And I also have experienced it, right?
Yeah. I've
been in bad sober livings. I've been in programs that kick you out for no reason at all. You know what I'm saying? And I tried to hand that off to the house managers that I'm training, right? And the sponsees that I'm sponsoring. I sponsor them different than my sponsor sponsored me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not gonna yell at you. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that worked for me. You know what I'm saying? If I feel that might be what you need, then I might cuss you out a couple times. You know what I'm saying? But today my life is based on helping people, right? I'm my kids are proud of me. You know, they know what I do. I visit them every week, every other week. Um, you know, I'm able to do cool stuff like this, right? You know, hey, it's you know, want to come down to a podcast? Sure, on a Wednesday afternoon, you know, on a random 2 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, why not? You know, because my job allows it, right? You know, and you know, this is in hopes of helping others, right? You know, I do a little bit of music, right? Still, you know, I started doing music when I got kicked out of my house the last time I was in CPS. I have a friend whose name is Jack, and every time I got really close to relapsing a lot of times while I was there, working my steps, right? And he was like, "Dude, why don't you write about it?" And I was like, "I don't know, I haven't been able to write anything." And he was like, you know, uh, every time you journal, try to journal in a rhyme, right? And then come back and see me, and you know, get a beat, and we'll come back and we'll do it. And you know, my prayers turned into to rap lyrics, right? Some of them are dark, some of them are me talking to God, right? Some of them are me talking to myself, you know. And I never released them. You know, none of those things I was releasing until about a month or two ago.
Yeah, really recently.
Yeah, like really recently. And these are songs that I had written and recorded, you know, a couple years ago, and and you know, everybody's like, what? Like I let people listen to them, and they're like, why don't you share these things? And I'm like, well, because they're personal. It's not meant for everybody. It's meant for me, and so I started sharing them, man, and it just kind of like started blowing up like out of nowhere, you know. The last one I released, and it's all TikTok, right? I make little snippets and stuff. I don't release the full song. You know, the last one got like 190,000 views on it, you know. And I was like, over like a 3-day period, I was like, what's going on here? Getting messages from people like, man, I don't know you, but you're talking about me, you know what I'm saying? And you know, it's exactly the same reaction that you get when you go to a treatment center and you talk to people and you tell them like, hey, you know, I've been here every night, and then this is where I'm at, right? Because it's the same everywhere you go, right? It's like what it was like,
What happened and what it's like now.
Yeah, what's like now, right? So, you know, yeah, man, it's been an interesting journey, and it's still you know, still happening. I'm eager to come back in like a year and tell you the things that I'm going through right now and what happens at the outcome, because it's pretty cool stuff are happening still. You know what I'm saying?
Well, dude, I'll be watching.
Yeah,
you know,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you was it TikTok that you found me?
No, it was Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, this is pretty interesting. I listened to some other podcast. But when I started listening to yours, I was like, you asked the right questions, right? You know, I was like, this is pretty cool, and I like your setup. I was like, it's really hip hop and really like, you know what I'm saying? You know, I struggled when as a kid. I struggled with my identity, right? You know, I used to be like, I used to like hip hop music, but I used to dress like a goth, and I used to listen to rock music and Spanish music, and I didn't know where I belonged. You know what I'm saying? I liked everything, and as I grew, I realized that I could do whatever I want, as long as it's not bad things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. We are all individuals.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Like you look at this place, and it's like, what is this dude into? Right. And then I got this thing. I was all excited about it. Did you see this?
What is that? Oh, snap. This is the original heroin.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wonder if whether they used to like spoon feed it to you or something?
Oh yeah. It used to be like a clear liquid.
Yeah?
Yeah, like pure heroin is like a clear liquid.
Man, it's bad out there today, bro. And it's not even just heroin. It's like fentanyl. You know what I'm saying? When fentanyl hit the street, everything just got pretty wild.
Yeah. Fentanyl. It was interesting to me. It's fentanyl hit the streets basically at the same time as COVID, and they both come from the same place. Have you ever thought about that? They both come from China.
I did not know that it came from China.
Yeah, I mean, all the precursors and stuff, they all manufactured in China, and then they ship it to Mexico, and then because they can send the precursors like all they want, right? It's like these are commodities. Send the precursors, and then they got Chinese chemists over here, and they're putting it together, and then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the way things are going today, anything's possible.
Ah, dude, it's the
Yeah.
society's crazy today.
Yes.
It is. Well, dude, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate your story. Thank you for coming down.
No, thank you for having me, bro.
Thanks for listening to My Last Relapse. I'm Matt Handy, the founder of Harmony Grove Behavioral Health, Houston, Texas, where our mission is to provide compassionate, evidence-based care for anyone facing addiction, mental health challenges, and co-occurring disorders. Find out more at harmonygrovebh.com. Follow and subscribe to My Last Relapse on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you like to stream podcasts. Got a question for us? Leave a message or voicemail at mylastrelapse.com. If you're feeling overwhelmed or struggling, you don't have to face it alone. Reaching out for support is a sign of strength, and help is always available. If you or anyone you know needs help, give us a call 24 hours a day at 888-691-8295.